Enemy of the state.
An enemy of the state.
Enemy of the state.
You're listening to Enemy of the State's Dank Podstash. Check out thedankpodstash.com to find every episode of the Dank Podstash, links to support the show via our BitBacker and Patreon, Dank Podstash merchandise, and much more. If you'd like to advertise on the Dank Podstash, email us at dankpodstash@gmail.com. All right. Before we jump into episode 55 of the Dank Podstash, we have a special offer for our listeners from friend of the show, author and content creator Shane Radliff of Liberty Under Attack Publications. You can take 10% off your order at libertyunderattack.com by using coupon code DANK10, DANK10. He has books focusing on self-liberation, freedom strategies, solutions, and more. Current books include #Agora, Second Realm book on strategy, Ben Stone's Sedition, Subversion, and Sabotage, Shane's very own Vanu, A Strategy for Self-Liberation, and a few new ones, so definitely go check it out. If you're not in the market for books, if you're in the market for putting out your own books, they also offer assistance to new authors throughout the publishing process, editing, proofreading, formatting for Kindle and paperback, and full-service audiobook production. Shout out to Liberty Under Attack Publications. Share your story, find your freedom at libertyunderattack.com. Also got to mention Bad Moon Hemp. Go to badmoonhemp.wordpress.com. It's your one-stop shop for all your handmade hemp needs. I use their beard oil and beard balm. There's a ton of other awesome hemp products on there. Check out badmoonhemp.wordpress.com. And now get ready for a conversation with one of the best dudes out there, one of my best friends, the one and only man of 500 and something sock accounts, Daniel Johnson. Enjoy. Well, Daniel Johnson, my man. It's good to have you on the show again. I don't think we had video last time, and that was one of the first episodes of the show.
Yeah, we had a delayed audio. That was rough.
It's probably still going to be delayed audio because, like I've mentioned before, living out in the middle of nowhere, you got satellite internet, and so it's slow and shitty, but it is what it is. I'm just glad to be talking to you again and seeing your face instead of one of your sock account faces.
Exactly.
Fucking
How many am I up to now? Like 517 or something?
Yeah, last count was in the 500s for sure. Are you sure you want to let this video out? People will know what you look like and not your sock.
Yeah. Right.
Fucking A, man. Well, you've been having some adventures in the world of community, huh?
Right.
Why don't you tell us about that?
I had a crazy neighbor. We have a Facebook group just in my neighborhood, and it is an HOA, and whatever people's feelings are on HOAs, yeah, they can suck. But anyway, this lady likes to get on this group and rant about people's kids, and so I told her to mind her own business, and ended up being an eye-opening experience about just how to deal with neighbors and stuff. She likes to call the police on very I think calling the police in the first place is stupid, but she likes to call the police for very ridiculous things.
Yeah, she's pretty extreme in her
Right.
complaints. You were telling me about that. Actually, I don't know if you posted the screenshots or not, but I saw some screenshots of that Facebook post, and she's having PTSD and fighting passing out because kids are running around and screaming and have a good time outside of her house.
Right. Yeah, she decided to call the police on some neighbor kids because they rode their bikes in front of her house, and it scared her. And this has happened on multiple occasions. So, yeah, I told her to I in my obtuse way, that I have on Facebook, I told her to mind her own business, and she decided to take screenshots of my Facebook and post them on the group and say, "Hey, is this the kind of guy you want in your neighborhood? He's a right-wing extremist," and it backfired on her. And then she eventually like deleted her Facebook and I think blocked me and everything. And it was this big thing. But I had several neighbors coming to me and they're like, "Dude, thanks so much for standing up to her. She's like, she's been a nightmare for me." And I'm like, "All right, sweet." So, I mean, I don't want anybody to move or anything. I just want to be left alone. And I know that a lot of people there want to be left alone. And I mean, calling the police on ridiculous things like that, I mean, she could have easily just gone outside and said, "Hey guys, could you keep it quiet? If, kids are bothering her, just go outside and ask them nicely."
Mm-hmm.
It's simple, we're all neighbors. We got to act like it.
Exactly. And there's a whole lot of interesting factors to that relate to stuff that people in your neighborhood probably don't know that you're about, as far as voluntarism and stuff. I'm sure some of them do. But people always talk about, they compare HOAs to...
Yeah, I'm not a right-wing extremist either.
Well, that we know of.
Call me that. Let's wait till I tell her the real truth.
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm curious about, like, people talk about HOAs, they compare it to the if you don't like it, then leave, as far as the U.S. or whatever, move to Somalia. Like, if you don't like an HOA, it was voluntary for you to get into an HOA. What do you think about that whole comparison?
Right. I mean, I do, like, my HOA does suck. I don't like some of the things that they decide to spend the money on that we have to pay each month,
Mm-hmm.
And they also do like these stupid community outreach things for police, and it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, I can see that HOAs can suck, but I do think it's voluntary. I chose to move into my neighborhood. Are there things I like? Yeah. Are there things I don't like? Yeah, absolutely. So.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as the HOA thing goes, like, it's different. That the comparison to the U.S. I think is so stupid when people bring that up, because you do choose to move into an HOA or to form an HOA versus being born in the U.S. That's not really a choice to live that way. I don't know if being born somewhere is a good enough excuse, but
Right.
Yeah, HOAs. I don't know. I think it's a good model, and it could be a whole lot better if you knew that the people that you were jumping into an HOA with, like, if you knew them, they were friends, or even people who shared ideas, versus just jumping in with a bunch of random people.
Right. And yeah, I don't like the comparison. A lot of people say an HOA is just a small government, and I mean, I never chose. Again, yeah, I never chose to be subject to this government. I chose to be in this particular neighborhood, and it happens to be run by an HOA. I have my issues with this particular one, and I've heard good things about other ones, and I've heard bad things about other ones. I've heard that other ones are even worse. So, but it seems to me like it would be much more like if we were in a stateless society, it would be like possibly joining one of these micro communities that we have talked about. These groups,
For
each
sure.
group would offer something different. Maybe one group would be communist, maybe one group would be capitalist, or anything in between, or nothing like any of those. They would have their own set of rules, and you'd essentially shop around,
Right,
and say, this is the community that I want to be a part of. Or maybe you don't even want to be a part of one. Maybe you want to just go live on your own. I would actually prefer to live in a little community, and be part of those ideals that I align with.
It'd be
Be around those people that agree with me more.
It'd be pretty dang hard to live completely isolated. I know some people can do it, but in reality, we know that, first of all, probably a state, whether or not it's the current states that exist now, will probably always exist in some form or another, whether it's small or isolated or just further away and less able to reach a free community. But for defense, for tactical purposes, having a community close at hand geographically is important. That's probably my biggest frustration, is that everybody I know, for the most part, who is an anarchist or an agorist or voluntarist, whatever you want to call yourselves, everybody I get along with and that I want to be around is so far away from me. And everybody has different ideas of where they want to be, so it's damn near impossible to get everybody grouped together in a community.
Right. It's a difficult thing. It's nice to meet those that live close to you, that share your same values and everything and beliefs. But even then, I think right now the closest person to me is still a few miles away. I mean, I'd like to be neighbors, next door neighbors with these people.
Right.
That would be, it's a little difficult right now in this situation.
For sure. Yeah, that would be ideal. I don't know. I think you get a lot more draw if we could set something up like, what was that shit in South America or Latin America or whatever called that turned out to be a scam? Wasn't that Berwick that did Galt's Gulch or something like that in Chile or something?
Was that him? I never heard about that.
Yeah, I thought he was part of that. I can't remember, so people listening, don't quote me on that. But some people bought a bunch of land and wanted to sell people plots of it, and it's going to be a free anarchist society. And there was just a whole bunch of fuckery and shady dealings going on, and people ended up pulling out. And it seems like it kind of goes like that rather often. It's unfortunate. It'd be a lot cooler to, and that might be the problem too, is that they're just advertising it to whoever had money to get into it as well, versus people coming together and forming one of these communities.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how to chime in on that. Sorry.
It's all good. Just my frustrations. You hear me vent these frustrations about not being close enough, and what the hell if the boogaloo starts? What if the boogaloo starts with me and I got nobody around to help me?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That's one of the things that worries me too.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern of mine. It just seems like it's going down that path. There's just some crazy stuff going down in California, or about to go down in California, and it's got me really concerned, and frankly really worried.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's I think it could be a soft test, or maybe even a full-on live test for door-to-door confiscations. Yeah, I don't think I've talked about that on the show yet, but looking at the things going on in California, I think Jason Booth, he's over there, and I was talking to him about some stuff, and he was saying things like curfews have been in place already for a long time in certain places, and then the PG&E power grid shutdowns are more leveraged to try to get more government subsidies because their infrastructure is old and shitty, and it's what's causing the fires in a lot of cases over there. But just because the government's not, you know, at behind the grid shutdowns, if they're implementing more curfews at the same time as people don't have power, and they're also pulling the rug out from under ham radio operators as far as their towers being located on government property,
Right.
saying they can't be there anymore, that you're cutting off electricity, charging, setting up criminal charges for people who are out past the time you allow them to be, out past the time where it's easier or where it's harder for you to regulate what they're doing, and they don't have power. Not to mention their governor just passed, I think it was like 14 or 15 new measures having to do with gun confiscation, gun laws, red flag laws, including making it easier for people to report other people for these red flag laws, and tacking on warrants that go into effect immediately when the police get to the house. Like, they don't have to wait for a judge in all cases. I'll see if I can link that article, and people can fact check me. But that is fishy.
Right. On top of the already draconian gun laws they already have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think California, does it have the worst gun laws in the nation?
I can only imagine. It's the place you always hear about. I'd have to dig into that and see, but it seems like the worst for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's got me worried. It's got me worried about. I mean, there's still good people there. I got a few friends that live there. One of the admins on Liberty Mines lives there, and I've told him, I've said, dude, you got to get out of California, and he's like, I really want to. So yeah, we'll see. And it is hard to feel optimistic when you're not living near these people that share your values. I think, and you're up in Washington. I'm down in Utah,
Mm-hmm.
and we got friends in Colorado. We're all spread out. Some in Alabama and stuff, and it's well, it would be hard to stay in contact,
Yeah.
because these are the people that you want to be around the most, and I think it would be very difficult.
It would be. And so that's another thing too, not being around people who you would totally throw down into the boogaloo with, trust to have each other's backs and stuff like that. It'll probably come down to necessity. Say door-to-door confiscations started, which is probably impossible, but who fucking knows? If it's gonna, that's why I think California would be the place, because it seems more possible there with their laws and whatnot.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't have you guys next door. I don't think I only have one or two other anarchists I know in the area. I'd have to throw in with whoever was around that was against what was happening, and that's a good opportunity. But at the same time, you're thrown in with 3%ers and actual far right extremists and shit like that. So
Right.
that could be a dangerous endeavor.
And you'd have to worry about, right, in those situations, you'd really have to worry about the police.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, in my opinion, the law enforcement is the first threat, because they are the ones enforcing the laws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'd be going door to door.
And I have taken I have spent some time with some of my neighbors, and not necessarily bringing it up, but I have talked to a few of my neighbors about my views, and sat down, and we've had really good discussions about the state. And they're not completely where I am yet, but we've had really good civil conversations about this stuff, and some lean a little bit more liberal, some lean a little bit more conservative. But just the other day, I was talking to my neighbor, and he lives right across the street from me, and he was saying, "Man, I've been watching some of these cop videos that you told me to watch, and man, cops are bad." And I'm like, "Wow, that's awesome that he's been watching those." And he's like, what who gives cops the right to do that?" I'm like, "I know, I agree with you." And so he's been really thinking about what I've told him. And if we can just, go out and peacefully persuade our neighbors, and have these neighborly discussions, and invite them over for food, and really be what it really means to be a neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And care for them, watch out for their kids, and so that they watch out for yours. When there is a dispute, just civilly go talk to them. And we want to establish an understanding where, with our neighbors, where we can do as much as we possibly can without the police,
Mm-hmm.
without law enforcement to come in, without government, where we can provide the necessary things, and look out for each other. This group that I'm in for my HOA, it's the whole purpose of the group was to share recipes, and share cleaning techniques, how to clean your toilet or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
hey, somebody stole a package off my porch, and watch out. And then we maybe can give each other information on how to find that person. And that's what the group was for. Unfortunately, it became about complaining about other people's kids, when that wasn't necessary at all. But yeah, we want to look out for each other. And so I think if we can, because we're not close to each other, we're so spread out, I think that is the thing we need to do, is talk to our neighbors. And even if they don't agree with you, sit down with them, and have some food, and chill, and explain how you view things. And maybe they won't agree, but if you show them that you're a normal individual, and you look out for each other, I think that's the best thing that we can do right now in this situation.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And it always seems to go much better. These conversations do always seem to go much better face to face, with people, talking to them in a good setting, because, online people are assholes because they can be. But it's
Right.
interesting
Like
too.
me.
All of us. It's interesting that your neighbor seeing those cop videos is having that change of heart, because that's something we've talked about before, is wondering if the state making somebody a victim, or I don't know, somebody feeling the influence of the state in a negative way, would be enough to get them to rethink their support for the state. And I think it goes both ways.
Yeah, you and I have had this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually what changed me.
Mm-hmm.
I was a total statist. I think when I got into, caring about what was going on in politics, I think I started out as a constitutionalist, and then I went to like libertarian, and then kind of when I went libertarian, it was more like, on the Ron Paul train,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went more anarchist, and then I do think there is a difference between anarchist and voluntarist, and I would say now I'm just straight voluntarist. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that was my path there, but that was influenced by me seeing firsthand the brutality of law enforcement and some government agencies that tried to ruin my family, and it wasn't an immediate thing. Even after that happened to me, I still was like, well, not all of them are bad. There's some good people there,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe there are people that join for good reasons, but I don't think that any cops are good. I used to and as somebody who tried to become a cop, yeah, I did try to become a cop because I thought I could change things from the inside,
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully that didn't work out. Thankfully I didn't join the Marines like I tried to do there, and yeah, if
I'm
I would have
happy for
become a
that.
cop, I probably would have been one of those.
Yeah. I'm glad that you did not do either of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know though, man. I know it'll get some people thinking, and then I look at I don't know, what is it? Was it Dallas PD again that shot that woman through her window when she was playing
Right.
video games? It seems like it's always Texas lately, and the people who are left, the victim's family, seem to always ask for is reform, or just finding a way to make police better or not do this again, even though it keeps happening
Right.
and happening and happening, and nothing's changing, and nobody's really seeing the picture that it's not changing the job, it's eliminating the job because it's a job that shouldn't be there.
Right. And it's again, it's this mindset, and maybe it's not their fault. We've all had a level of indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the answer is really so simple. The answer is the abolishment of law enforcement on every level, from local police to all the way up to federal law enforcement, ATF and
Mm-hmm.
FBI and stuff. And it's I don't see that going away through voting.
Mm-hmm.
I see it going away through convincing others that we don't need them, and then when they try to come enforce the state's dictates, I don't know, maybe they're run out of town, or we just say, hey, we got this, and then it just becomes this mindset of that we don't need them, and everybody's kind of on the same page, and then they just kind of go away.
Yeah.
Because right now there are laws on the books right now that aren't enforced, and the reason they're not enforced is because they're stupid. And so it's like, well, if we could expand that, and say, hey, we don't need police, eventually it would go away. Laws go away because people ignore them.
Right.
And so the more we ignore and take care of things ourselves, will things be perfect? Absolutely not, because people aren't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But we can create a system, or I don't even know if I want to call it a system. We can create a hopefully a community where, yeah, we don't have to rely on the state, because they're not going, they make their own laws so that they can break them.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to create a set of voluntary rules where it's like, hey, you want to join our community? These are our rules. You're welcome to join. We'd love you to. If you don't want to, there's maybe that community over there will take you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So.
absolutely. I really like too seeing when businesses have signs, or when they when someone asks for a military discount or something like that, or a police discount, they say, "Oh, we actually don't serve military or cops here." And you don't see that too often, but you do see it. And of course, they get slammed on in the media and whatnot. But that's a choice, and when they do get interviewed, they often have good reasons for it, and I like people to hear that, and that flows right into the idea of communities. Say you have a gated community, or even an HOA community that's not gated, and one thing everybody decides on, and you could even do it in your situation as well, because talking about that woman who wanted to call the police on kids, just bullshit reasons. If you were to go to a meeting and bring that up, be like, first of all, we don't need cops here because they could possibly hurt people. Look at the track record of them shooting kids or anybody, even through welfare checks or whatever. But second of all, look at property values when there's constantly cops being called and cops in the area for supposed crimes or things like that. Why don't we make this a place where we don't ever want to see cops? Because you don't see cops, they don't need to be there.
Right. That is my number one fear with this lady calling the police was so often is like, thankfully the cops came out and said, hey, you shouldn't have called us. Mm-hmm. But how often do we hear these stories of cops coming out and shooting an innocent person unarmed? Mm-hmm. But we're a close-knit community here. We're very close together. We have a lot of young families with little kids. Say some kid is running around with a squirt gun mm-hmm. or something, and some skittish cop, blows some kid away. Yeah. That would devastate our community. So it's verifiable that kind of stuff happens. We don't want that kind of stuff. And we want to create a community where we can go and talk to each other. And if kids are being noisy, and just go outside and say, hey guys, could you keep it down? Mm-hmm. And I've done that before. And, some kids that I'm like, they're probably little punks. They were like, yeah, no problem. And it was cool. And that was it. It was very simple. And, cause I don't know if you're calling the police, I don't know, maybe sometimes kids getting vindictive and they're like, okay, maybe I'm going to mess with this person now.
Maybe sometimes.
But yeah,
vindictive. Yeah.
And I know there's little punks out there, but we got to treat kids. They're still human beings. They're normal. They want to have fun, and the whole reason we're fighting for our freedom and trying to convince others to embrace individualism and freedom and voluntarism is for future generations. Mm-hmm. And you can't have future generations without kids. So, yep. But I was gonna bring up. I think I saw that on a picture. It was somebody had put a sign in their window saying, "We don't serve police or military here." And I think somebody had taken a screenshot of some of the comments, and one of them said, "We're just gonna tell them we're not gonna fight for their freedom anymore."
Fair trade. I'll take it.
I'm like, okay, that sounds great.
I think I saw that too. Don't threaten me with a good time. Fucking A.
Exactly.
No, man, but think if you had like a sign at the entrance to your neighborhood that said law enforcement check in at HOA center or whatever. You know, do not enter
Right.
without doing that. How freaking cool would that be? That and the kids, whatever problem causing kids that are out there, even though it doesn't really sound like they're causing problems, it sounds like that lady's causing problems. But kids in general
Right.
who may be causing problems in a community, you know, talking to them, being like, look, you guys are cool, you know, playing, but this lady over here is crazy and she wants to call the cops. I don't want you to get in trouble with the cops. We don't need cops
Right.
here doing that. There's a lesson for kids and all that too.
And I just talked about that with my neighbor actually last night, and I said he just asked for an update on what happened with this lady, and I told him what had happened, and then I said I just don't want to see a scenario where you know, kids are shot by cops or anything like that, and especially my kids. But yeah, we don't want to see police going down our streets. We don't want to see that. And he immediately agreed, and I was really surprised that he did. But I was like, he immediately agreed, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to see that either. It's always he said it's a bad feeling when cops are around, and I was like, thank you. And so people generally, I think, agree with that. You don't want to see police rolling up and down your streets. I mean, it's like, well, if police are here, it means something else is going down. And yeah, and anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure, 100%. I just comparing places I've lived. Like right now, I've said on the show before, I think there's one, I want to say he's a sheriff for the county that patrols this entire section of the county. So it's like a 40-minute response time if anything bad happens. And nothing bad happens because everybody has guns and protects their shit. Like there's known, if you're going to live out in the country or the desert or out on the outskirts, you know there's going to be probably tweakers, people who are, you know, breaking and entering, all kinds of stuff. And when that stuff happens, people take care of it themselves. Their neighbors watch out for each other, and they don't let it happen, and they're not calling the cops because it'd be useless to call the cops anyways. So we know it's possible. And my point in all this is that I feel safer taking care of my own shit out here and knowing that the neighbors that are watching my house would just as soon blow somebody away for breaking into my house as they would sooner do that than call the cops. And versus places I've lived where the ghetto bird's flying over every couple hours, shaking the window panes, the spotlight's in my backyard, and it's like I don't even know if they're looking for a criminal right now. But knowing that the presence is this strong, I know there's a lot of crime about. They could just be looking in my backyard for whatever reason they want to. And, you know, cops walking by the backyard when I'm outside having a beer in those places. Be like, hey, where are you up to? I'm like, on my fucking back porch having a beer is what I'm up to. Why are you asking? This is so much better living in a place where you don't have that presence.
Right. I mean, yeah, and wherever the cops go, you know, they are probably enforcing some bullshit crimes, and so or bullshit laws, and so it breeds crime. The answer really is so simple. The abolishment of the police, and again, the way we do that is we create a community. I mean, ideally, it would be nationwide, or the vast majority. I would love. I mean, it would be a very difficult thing to do, but where the vast majority of people say, you know, we don't need cops around. We can take care of things ourselves. And will there be crime and, you know, violations of other people? Absolutely. But those are things you can still take care of in a community. I imagine a scenario where, and again, it's a long shot, but I imagine a scenario, and we've seen videos of it. It happens a lot of times in other countries. And I think it maybe has happened here maybe a few times. But when cops come and enforce, you know, these bullshit laws, people fight back. maybe somebody has drugs or something. That's there's no victim, there's no crime, but a cop is there to just enforce the law because he's a mindless drone, and people fight back and maybe run him out of town and scare him off. I would love to see that kind of scenario where people fight back and say, no, you're not going to come in here and do that to us. You have no authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
you see stuff like that either in times past. Like I remember there's a picture that sticks out to me of ranchers that had gathered together to stop their local sheriff and the tax man in the area from seizing a lady's farm after her husband had died. And they got him on the ground, holding him down. And there's a sign pretty much telling him to fuck off, saying that you can't take this place because she's a widow. She doesn't have any way to pay for it. And they're helping her out. And then you see things, I can't remember where it was, but people literally holding on to, and it was a guy who had drugs who got arrested, like pulling him physically away from the police and making enough barrier for him to run away and get away. And you see stuff like that where there's either less of a threat of them calling some heavy backup or just a very small police presence in general. And that's one of the more dangerous, scary parts.
Sorry.
Oh, that's one of the more scary, dangerous parts is because, if you're in a place where shit goes down and the community stands up to the cops or whatever, and it gets to the point where they're going to call the National Guard, what then?
Right. Yeah, that's a tough scenario. I mean, I would violence is the last resort, but I'm not against it. But yeah, I would love to see people, protect their neighbors. If cops come in to enforce their, the state's stupid laws, just surround your neighbor's house. Don't let the cops in. And when the cops, because cops call for backup, we need to be able to call for backup too, and protect each other. Cops, I mean, as soon as a cop calls for backup, it's like they're there, they just swarm in, and we need to do the same thing where we, can call somebody and they're there in an instant to protect, because I would do that for my neighbors. And anyway, yeah. I think, what was it? What was the video from Hong Kong? There was somebody being dragged off or beaten by one of the police there, and some came in and just kicked the guy, and that was amazing. I was like, wow, dude, good for you.
Oh yeah, that was a great one. Just flying kick right to the chest. Took that cop out in full riot gear. Yeah, that shit's getting pretty crazy over there too. They have tracked and armored vehicles coming out. There's people wearing masks in defiance of the mask bans now, and some of them are doing pretty funny stuff too. Like there's this this girl wearing a Hello Kitty mask, but it was about the size of her whole top half of her body, walking around like that. But they're wearing the Winnie the Pooh masks to make fun of their president and stuff like that.
Yeah, what is the whole Winnie the Pooh thing? Where did that come from?
Someone said that, I can't remember his fucking name, but the Chinese president or whoever he is looks like Winnie the Pooh, and so they banned Winnie the Pooh.
That's so funny, and yeah, it's funny that people are just in defiance of the president there. They're wearing the Winnie the Pooh mask. I think it's funny.
Well, what a crazy thing, man. Like this is the kind of shit you read about in the dystopian novels and stuff, where the rulers of countries are offended by something, so it gets banned. Like something as arbitrary as Winnie the Pooh or whatever. Like, how do people not see what kind of world this is now? That's insane.
Well, it seems like the people in Hong Kong are getting it for the most part, or at least the people that are fighting back.
Yeah.
We just we need to, you know, take a lesson from what they're doing. And, you know,
Right.
I mean, I don't want to fight back. I really don't. But um, I want to take a stand. I want to encourage others to as well.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing you can do when another bullshit law is put on the books is obey it, you know, because then it legitimizes it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to say no. I'm not going to obey that. And yeah, it happens sometimes. I think up in your area, the sheriff said he wasn't going to enforce some of the new red flag laws.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see about that.
But you know, we'll see about that. I don't hold my breath for any police, but I mean, yeah, I don't think it necessarily takes the sheriff to do. I think it takes the people. We don't need the sheriff to take a stand. We need the people to say, I don't care what the sheriff does, regardless. I'm not gonna follow this because, you know, I know what happens when my guns are taken.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of people. Well, let me preface this with the thing that most people think will be the tipping point for some sort of I don't know, violent outburst in one form or another is when the majority of people are uncomfortable when it comes to not being able to eat or not get whatever benefits and things like that. And I think a whole lot of people are starting to feel the burden of not only increased taxation, because I know that's a thing up here in Washington. It's a constant fight. The government always wants to institute an income tax, and there is no state income tax as of now, but they're always trying. And one of the things they want to do is take away the option for a vote. So it's just a closed door meeting for whatever councils, and they can just implement it if they want to. And then also raising minimum wage. King County, where Seattle's at, is one of the forerunners, the people that are really trying to push for that in the whole of the U.S. And I know our minimum wage is going up to, I think, $13.50 in January, and so we're seeing the effects of compression, where minimum wage is going up, but jobs just above minimum wage, there's not going to be any raises going out for a lot of people for that. So it's a pay cut. Cost of living is going up because of that, because people have to pay more, pay their employees more, so they have to make that profit up somewhere. So that's going to be in your food and your rent and whatever. And I think people are going to start getting uncomfortable.
Right. And I'm a capitalist. Bring on the automated tellers.
Yeah. I don't see any problem with automation. That's another weird argument that's going on. People are saying automation's taking our jobs, but there was a good a good point someone brought up. It's like, well, we better smash all the light bulbs in the candle makers shop, so they have to bring back those more candle making jobs to keep making candles. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think in Utah, the latest is with the whole medical marijuana thing going on, and I think they're I'd have to find the article, but there was a group of people, but it was like half a dozen, but I think they went and I think they basically went and smoked some weed on the state capitol.
Nice.
And just kind of in protest. But the whole issue is, like, last year they people voted to legalize medical marijuana, but then the state said, nah, screw it, we're going to still implement our own thing, and we're not going to allow it. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Legalization is one of the biggest traps, I think, and I cannot believe how many people support legalization when it gives the state so much revenue to play with. I hate it. Right. I understand it's less people going to prison overall and whatnot, but they're still arresting people if you don't play by their rules that they put in place for legalization. You know, it's if you
Well,
want to grow, you got to
it's-
register. Say that again.
Ideally, it's decriminalization. Just take it off the books completely.
Yeah.
I think legalization is a step in the right direction. But yeah, it's like this is still controlled by the state.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what I say? I say keep it in the black and gray markets always, and just keep growing those, because eventually it can't be stopped.
Right.
But yeah, I posted a thing
Right.
on the Podstash Facebook page the other day about the injustice of people. It was like $1.6 billion in revenue generated for the state by legalization, and at the same time there's still hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people going to prison for different types of possession or illegal growing or whatever, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't read anything about that, but that doesn't surprise me. Like most of the prisons are, filled with people who have committed no crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's all security theater.
Yep. That's fucking garbage. Well,
Right.
yeah, let's work on if we're not gonna live in the same community, let's at least try to go hunting together sometime, man. Yeah, get up here. But let's
Oh, dude.
let's call that a show, man. We're just about at our time limit. Fucking A.
Okay.
Awesome. I'm gonna have you stick
Good to talk
around.
to you, man.
Hey, you too. I'm gonna have you stick around for just a little bit longer. Record a quick 5-10 minute video for patrons, if you don't mind. And
Yeah.
if you want to see that, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on the screen right now. Patreon.com/TheDankPodstash. The link is in the show description everywhere you're listening to or watching this. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks Daniel for being on here. And remember, total freedom, no exceptions.
Omnipresent, whatever